Great, we're live. Hello, hello, hello. Wherever you are around the globe, it's morning, afternoon, or evening. Well, all of those to you. This is Annie D welcoming you all to the Purple Sofa this evening because I'm in India. And yes, it has been a while. It has been a while, but listen, considering the current scenario and all the heartache that we have been surrounded by, you know what? It just kind of dulled me down a bit. But I have crawled out of my purple bat cave, and because of my special guest today. And of course, my guest today is actor Shahana Goswami, who you will know from movies like Break Ke Baad, Rawan. I mean, there's just so much more. I mean, Rubaru. I mean, we've got Suitable Boy, we've got Bombay Begums, we've got The Last Hour, and so much more. And what you may not know about her, actually, is that she's also been a production assistant, where she's also familiar with being behind the camera. This girl is well versed, I'm telling you. And moreover, she has been nominated and won several awards for Best and Supporting Actress. I can't get enough of her. So, I mean, what's left to do but to bring her to the podium? Now, as you all know, it is easier said than done because you know my history with technology. So we are going to give it a go. And before we do, I'm going to say hello to Jonathan, Sonal, Sagar, Christine. Good to know you're on. Krishna, also, welcome to the show. And I think it is time to bring my guest on. You know what? I'm sure she's here. I'm sure she's here because she looks like the punctual type. And I think I may have scared her into being punctual, actually. I'm not quite sure because I did sound a bit regimented. I almost felt her going like this when she said, I'll be there on time. So I've sent a request. So Shahana, if you can pick that up, or you can send me another one if you haven't got it. Tarun, good to know that you're in as well. I'll say hello. Oh, look. Yes, Shahana. Yes, you are here. Go with live with Shahana. Yes, I will. Instagram, will you stop updating? I swear it's a conspiracy. I'm telling you. Hello.
Hi,
Hello. That's brilliant. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Absolutely fine. Welcome to the Purple Sofa, virtual Purple
Thank
Sofa. It really
you.
is purple.
Oh,
So
that is purple, yes.
it is. It is. This is my version of the Red Room. Okay, without the
Mm.
whips and the clips. It's all safe. So welcome. So
Thank
just
you.
just to warn you, there's a bit of a storm. Well, it's an understatement. There's quite a storm outside, right? So if something goes bang, if something flies in through the balcony window, right? Bear with me. And if the lights go, which most likely will, we are made of sterner stuff, and we are going to persevere because these are the kind of
Absolutely.
women we are. Well, I'm telling you, you are looking great. Movies are great. Life seems to be great. So I want to know more about it, right? It's only a simple request. And I've been reading about you. I've been watching your stuff. You're too young, Shahana, to have achieved so much. This is crazy. Oh my
Well, I don't
God.
know about age,
Me
but
too.
yes, I did start very early. I started
Mm.
when I started acting in films when I was 19.
Wow.
And
Okay.
so now it's been 30, I'm 35 now, so it's been 16 years, yeah, of working, which is a luxury and a blessing that I've been able to make this my
Yeah.
one and only career. And it's not only something that I'm hugely passionate about, but
Mm.
also something that I've managed to be able to do.
Right. No,
So,
it's fantastic. Now, listen, I want to know, right? So, this 16-year journey, right? I want to know if it's that romantic slog, the hard work, the thing that books are written on and movies are written on with Anuba Sinha as director. Is it going to be a romantic slog, those 16 years? Tell me, was it
not at
hard to
all.
get into? Seriously.
I know it's a anticlimactic story. I think I can't say. See, the beginning I have to say was not a struggle at all by any stretch
Oh,
of any imagination. It was really chance and luck and
mm,
a bit random. I mean, somebody knew somebody said go meet this one, and then they were helping or knew of a casting somewhere. I went there
yeah.
and first audition I did was the first film I did. So it was just by chance. And thereafter, so I was still in college, and the first film I did was Yun Hota To Kya Hota, and then I did a small part in Honeymoon Travels, and I did Rubaru actually while I was still in college, but Rubaru released later. Yeah. And once I finished with college, I think I just thought, okay, fine, I'll give myself about a year and see, because I was planning to go to NSD or do an acting course, which was in India. All of them were postgraduate courses. So. But I said, okay, now that work has started, let me give myself a year and see how it pans out. And I was lucky, and I got beautiful films like Firak, Con, Sudhir Mishra's film Tera Kya Hoga, Johnny, and this. So many films that came around that time, and then it kind of kick-started. But I think struggle, by and large, is perspective. Yeah. As long as you enjoy doing what you do, I think somebody could call it a struggle. I mean, I've heard in recent times people saying, oh, do you feel like now you're getting your due? I think I got my due always, because what I did, I was appreciated for. The kind of people that I got the opportunity to work with at a very, very young age, the kind of encouragement that I got, the kind of support that I got, the kind of appreciation that I got from audiences who didn't know who I was. All of that was, for me, more than I could have expected or hoped for. And that's what I looked for, an artist, and that's what I got. Maybe if my ambition was fame and success and being mobbed, and yes, that's not something but that has never been my aspiration, really. That's a product of things, and for me, it's the process of making a film or a project that collaborates with what I enjoy. The human interaction is what I enjoy. The internal process for me as an actor is what I enjoy. So I've had, it's not a struggle, but of course, there are times when I think I would say there was a small phase of maybe, which felt very arduous, but there was like a phase of maybe 1.5, 2 years when I wasn't quite getting the kind of work that I wanted, and there was a bit of a pause in the kind of work that I was getting, which I was happy with, and I didn't know what to do, because I knew that I was not going to make a compromise and do something that did my soul well, my heart. And so there was this conundrum of thinking, oh, should I just, universe, just give me a sign when I should stop being around, because I'm very happy to change my life up and do something else. I think I've always had a very wholesome life outside of work. And so for me, it wasn't a big deal to think about doing something else or branching out in some sense. But as when you ask the universe a question truly with intent, I think it answers back immediately. And literally 7 days later, I got The Last Hour, which was incidentally the first OTT platform thing that I did. And then then there was Bombay Begums and Suitable, and this kind of started again. So, I was brought back. So it was just that little period. And, because we're talking about this, it's interesting because so many of us believe that struggle is required or is important to feel deserved. And I had that. I kept feeling like I got it so easy. I just got it, just fell into my lap. So somewhere it was also maybe my interpretation is that the universe was like, okay, you want to struggle, you want to feel, that's what you feel deserving, fine, struggle for a little while and then we'll see. So
well, you know what? So great stuff. Look, we get the enjoyment. So I'm quite happy that it just fell into your lap. But but it doesn't. I mean, but we can't ignore the fact that a lot of personalities, when before the pandemic and everything, they've been around. Quite a few personalities that are familiar. They haven't had a break. They've had an odd break, but not much, and they've been around for years. And there has been a sudden transition, a sudden shift. It could be the pandemic. It could be the death of Shashank Singh. It all came together. And suddenly the OTT platform just shot up. So do you think the OTT platform gave you opportunities that you normally wouldn't have had? Do you think that hastened the process in many ways as well?
Yes, to some extent. I think it's because the sheer quantity of work. I think if the OTT platform had also been a little more niche or had been limited in some way, I think the fact that it is something where there is constant demand right now because people are lapping things up so quickly, because people, like you said, are at home, or the convenience of watching things at their own time as opposed to going to the theater and watching a film. Those, or and the fact that you don't have a stipulated time in terms of even, oh, it's in the hall for a week. Those are the kind of things you can pick up. People pick up films and project, even films now. There are films that are doing well that when they released, they never did that well. And the reason is that you have access to content for when it suits you, and to watch it in the manner that suits you. So that's one thing. And because of which the quantity of work is so much that suddenly there is a lot of scope for everybody, for actors, for technicians, for creative people, for writers. So it's a boom of the industry. Now that boom there have been phases when that boom has happened even in the film industry. And whenever any kind of boom happens, those select few people are not enough to do all the work. That's when new people come in. So I think it's kind of, it's more that. And and there's still, I mean, you can always look, at the potential of more. So there are still unknown people, there are still unknown talents, both in front of the camera, behind the camera, that can still be discovered, because there is also no proper system of making it through. There is no, it's not a corporate ladder where you get your certificates and then and your degrees and then you make it. So it's a hit and miss in many ways, and it's timing and chance and destiny and so many things. But I mean, definitely the OTT platform has allowed me to do work that is, let's say, characters that are built over a period of time. So the familiarity that the audience has with you is more than, let's say, something that you do for 1.5 hours or 2 hours. And and there was a break, like we were discussing, there was a break of a while since I did anything in India and any of my work released in India, though I was doing stuff elsewhere, but it was showing at festivals, and it was not really, they were not Indian productions, so they didn't release in India. But I'm glad that, there is a kind of nomadic pattern to, the way things have played out for me.
Yeah, I have a vision of you with your backpack. I mean, but but I'm seeing you absolutely everywhere. Netflix, Amazon, I've been seeing you. I've been seeing people like, I mean, there's so many faces now that are so common now on the OTT platform. We've got, Vikrant Massey, we've got Shafali Shah, we've got the Rasika Dugals, we've got the Pankaj Tripatis. I mean, and it made me think of an article that was actually written about you. I think it was an article talking about the Act of Destiny. Was that in one of the movies? It was Australian productions.
Force of Destiny.
Force of Destiny. Sorry. And there was a lady. Is it Neeta? I've got to write because I can't pronounce the name. So is it Neeta Satyendran? Is that how you pronounce it? And she loved you, and she actually said, what I love about Shahana is that it's no frills. She's no frills on her or about her. And this is what I'm seeing, these characters that I'm now seeing on OTT. Do you think these are the kind of movies that, the audience are liking now? Is this the way, do you think it's going? The faces, the movies, it's the no kind of frills, but the real thing, more real, I mean, real personalities.
I think what's important is a good story. I think what's happened is that, like anything else, the fact that things have opened up in terms of accessibility globally, it allows for people to watch very different kinds of things. And with dubbing and subtitling, everybody across the board from all different walks of life and different backgrounds are watching all kinds of things in different languages from different parts of the world. So suddenly content is not limited to what you see just in your country and in your culture. And that itself starts raising the bar. And so both the people that are creating content and the ones that are consuming it are all exposed to all of this. So it's a kind of, I give this example sometimes that if, let's say, I'm generalizing, of course, but let's say the 80s and 90s was the worst era for cinema and art, so to speak. And if the OTT platform somehow came into prevalence at that time, then that's the kind of stuff that would have been popular, because that was just the million. So it's just that today the times are different. Today, social media, voicing your opinion, talking, conversations, going into depths of things, questioning, challenging, those things have started very extensively at personal, political, social levels. And so that's getting reflected in the kind of content as well and the kind of writing.
So this is it. So here's a question I'm going to throw out to you. So where do you think the Karinas and the Shah Rukhs are now? Where are they positioned? Because I feel that the playing field has actually opened up. It's evened up. As you said, a lot more players are coming in. So where would we position them now? Because I know that I'm seeing a lot more of you. I'm not really missing anyone else. So the certain type of actors. Now we've got OTT A-listers now.
But then these are also phases. This phase will also come to an end, and there will be a moment when maybe you won't remember me, and there'll be somebody else. So these are cycles, and I don't think the whole thing about I have never been one to diss the stars and whatever.
Yeah.
There was a systematic problem with the way things were, but that was a problem that we were also a part of. The audience is also a part of that systemic problem. And just saying, oh, people function in a certain way is very easy to say. But when you're watching, when you're a part of an industry that is a business, people are going to do what is being lapped up, what is being watched. Today, just as we're giving credit to the audience for consuming and encouraging work that is different, that when there are enough people who enjoy that kind of, so do I. So I don't think that goes away. Their appeal and their charm is different. It's almost like saying, oh, I have to pick a flower that I will love, and that's my style. No, there's a daisy for something, there's a wildflower for something else, there's a lilac for something, you might want an orchid another day. They all have their own. And I think the problem becomes when we start pitting things and people against each other. There is space for it all. And the more that all of it exists, there will be different flavors. Everybody would get bored if there's only one kind of thing.
Yeah.
Everything in life has an ebb and flow, and so we are in some kind of an ebb and flow of the creative space as well. And this too will change and become maybe archaic again, and then come back to being fluid and dynamic again. And that's how it is.
Yeah, like flares are coming back in, and I wish I'd never thrown them out my cupboard. But do you see yourself as part of, for example, a Dharma production where you're jumping out of a helicopter, you're running across a mowed lawn, and you're running into the arms of Jaya Bhadri? I mean, do you see yourself doing that kind of movie now, though, in your career?
I would see. To me, it's not about not doing something like that, because that very same action could happen in a Lara Croft type film, and I would do it. And it would be equally blockbuster and whatever. So it's not that I wouldn't do a Dharma film. It's just that it has to make sense to me in the larger scheme of things. And it's really about, at that time, what I'm looking at. Because I've also learned one thing, that whenever you say never to something, life will present you with that opportunity and maybe make it happen.
True.
So never say never. And I have never denied the fact that I've been a huge Bollywood buff. I've grown up seeing Bollywood. I've had crushes on people. I've danced in front of the mirror to Dharma songs and Yashraj songs, whatever, I've done all of it. So, but I also learned over a period of time that my sensibility as an artist was different. But having said that, there is a very different kind of skill set required to be able to do that. And I've seen that when I've been somewhat a part of films like Ravan or whatever. It's grueling in a very different way, and it takes a very different kind of metal to be able to do all that. So and I'm generally an experienced junkie, so I would love to be able to do it and see how good or bad I am at doing that. But it's really about, like I said, for me, choices are instinctive. So if it's something that in the moment makes me feel like, hey, why not? That's a great challenge, and I'll do it, and I'll do it well, and I'll enjoy the process. And sure.
Great. But you know what, Shahana, I love you in your stressed, your alcoholic, and your unfaithful moments. I love it. I mean, the roles that you've done, I'm quite happy with them, and for me, they've been really interesting. I mean, but some of the roles that you've done. So, for example, Bombay Begums, the role has really asked you to push boundaries, cultural boundaries. You've had to do intimate scenes, and I'll ask you directly, have you ever been uncomfortable? Because it is a different way of working now, obviously.
I've actually done intimate scenes right from the beginning of my career. Rubaru had lots of kisses in it and physical intimacy.
But I guess the extent and the type of the scenes seem to have developed a lot more because it's a different generation. It's a different viewer. You know, we don't seem to see anything wrong with it at all. We're just seeing it as an artistic piece. But I know,
Mm.
for example, that if my mum was sitting next to me, I can't watch anything with my mum anymore. Right. So I can
Mm.
just say, hey, mum, let's just watch this movie together. I can't do that anymore, which I
Right.
could do before.
Right. Um, I mean, I have never had discomfort at doing things which I feel are um, required for a character.
Mm,
And just as, I mean, the thing is, I understand why people ask this specifically about intimacy, because that is something that is very private. But so is
mm,
crying, so is being vulnerable. But somehow
yeah.
you don't get asked so much about that. So is laughing. Let me tell you, most people struggle the most to show joy and genuine laughter on screen. That's one of the toughest
Mm,
things when people are dubbing and doing that. Laughter is harder for people to do
yeah.
than crying and intimacy and all. And a lot of these things are mental blocks, and they are to do with how other people may perceive
Yeah.
things. But each to their own. I think everybody has different levels of discomfort with different things. Some people might have
Mm,
a problem with dialogue, with speech, with whatever. So I don't think for me there is anything specifically that I'm uncomfortable with,
mm,
um, that I've done so far. And intimacy for me, I'm very comfortable maybe with my body
yeah.
as well. And I've always been. And
Yeah.
um, I am a naturally physical person. Like,
Yeah.
so I'm not like I'm I like hugging people or
Yeah.
touching. So I'm very easy with my body.
Yeah.
And then I feel an actor, you are constantly used to that. You have makeup artists so close to you. Your clothes are being measured. Like, there's the constant um, proximity, physical
Yeah.
proximity, kind of um, breaking of that barrier, which also makes it very comfortable for me,
Yeah.
at least.
I mean, so
And
what do you, yeah, sorry, what do your family think of this? And you're absolutely fine. This is your job. This is your profession.
right.
This is about delivering, a personality, a character. So what do your family think of this? Have they ever said, come on, Shahana, ye kya kar rahi ho? Ye kaisi hai? Ye kya ho raha hai?
No, not at all. I think that's maybe also something I'm very lucky about, that I don't think
Yeah.
there was ever even a conversation about this. I think
Wow.
my family is also, they've done theater and dance
Oh, right.
themselves
Okay.
at a professional level, not as a full-time thing perhaps, but
Yeah.
they have and continue to do it. So I don't think that they have ever viewed a character to be me. And
Yeah.
hats off to them for never making
Yeah.
me feel that pressure, because I'm sure other people may feel or talk or
Mm.
ask, or my grandparents when they were alive, but it was never a topic of discussion, even in the least. And
Yeah.
I think what becomes important is the intent with which
Mm.
one does something. And I see that, let's say, even in people that let's say follow me on Instagram or fans or
Yeah.
whatever. I have never had anybody talk badly, even though, like you
Yeah.
said, I've done a lot of work where there is intimacy and sexuality, and but somehow it's never. I have never got dirty talk, or I've never been looked at as a sexual symbol or anything. So I think, I don't know,
Amazing.
maybe something. But yes, I am lucky that my family doesn't have
Yeah.
that kind of discomfort with
Yes.
these things. In fact, if at all anything, they have more of an emotional discomfort with, like, me being violated,
Yeah.
physically dying. Or those are things that are more difficult for them to watch.
Wow, I think that's what makes all the difference. If you know that your family are with you, you're able to open yourself up to so many more experiences like this and deliver, from the
Right.
heart, which is amazing.
Yeah.
What would you
That's
say was their favorite role that you've ever done? What's their all-time favorite?
that's an impossible question. I mean, also because it's something that you keep experiencing and going through, and it's really like walking through, like, it's like a river. I don't have, I have memories, but I'm not attached to them in that way, because I'm flowing.
Yeah.
And so I carried all the good things from it, and there's nothing. I don't think I've not enjoyed playing any character, or that I've not learned and not grown. I know it's not
Mm.
the fun answer, but I don't have one character that I specific. I mean, the one thing I can say is Meenakshi Mehra for me was the most unusual character I've played, and most far removed from me in that sense. And I had to tap into a side of me that I'd never tapped into. So I think that kind of unabashed aplomb and the sexuality and sensuality and the focus on the physical appearance and the sexiness. I mean, that was something that was fun and different and challenging because I'd never done it before. So.
No, I have to say the one role that really stood out, and I've seen a lot of your work. I have to say Meenakshi in in A Suitable Boy, because I just loved it. I loved the fact that I couldn't even hate you. I couldn't hate you for being unfaithful, and because you weren't out there to hurt anybody. And I love the way that character was portrayed, because in any other world, we're talking a time in our cultural system, I guess, you would really dislike that person and you'd be willing to chuck them out, but you just couldn't hate her. I mean, this is how times have changed, and it really brought to mind. I mean, this is a weird thing where movies were very black and white before. You had a very definite classification of negative and positive roles. But now, it's funny how movies have changed. I think in my eyes that there is no black and white. You've got negative characters you can't even hate. They're almost lovable. This is how things have changed. Like, for example, is it Divyendu in Mirzapur, like you in A Suitable Boy, just to name a couple. And you just cannot hate them. I mean, how does this happen? When did this happen?
That's because there are no negative characters. I mean, do we go about in life calling people that's a negative character? There's a context and a perspective that we all have on each other, and somebody, there are reasons to like or dislike which come from our own ideas, from our judgment, from their own judgments of themselves, and so there's so many things. But which is why I used to always say this whole thing of calling somebody a gray character and all of that. These are only things we use for when we're talking about fiction, but fiction is a depiction of life. So if we don't use those words in real life in our interactions with other human beings, then why do we use them in fiction?
So this is why I think this is it. It's showing. I think that the movies today that we're seeing on the OTT platform are more real. The characters are more real, and all of us are made up of darkness and light. I think this is what it is, and this is why I just can't. There's some characters that I should hate, and I just can't. And I think, am I a bad person? What have I turned into? I'm questioning my judgment now as I watch these shows. But look. We're seeing you absolutely everywhere, which is great for you. I think it's fantastic for us. But I'm just wondering, every day, Netflix, Amazon, and all the other platforms seem to be dropping movies left, right, and center. How are you coping with this? And how does the production team cope with such high turnover, though? It doesn't seem quite brutal in the way that you're churning out movies in terms of speed.
Yeah, I mean, it is, I think... the only thing I would say is that because the demand is going up and there's such a boom, and it's almost like the demand is more than the supply. And so there is a pressure that the companies have, the platforms have to churn out stuff. But I think one has to find a balance where we're able to do that in a way where it's not inhumanly taxing on the crew. And I say this always, that the crew more than the actors, because the actors come in and out, but the crew, the other people that's there day in and day out, and often don't get a break, and the break is not a real break because they're troubleshooting other things. And so I think it requires people have to learn to be penny wise, pound foolish, not be penny wise, pound foolish, and be able to allow for a little more breathing room, to allow for better content, to allow for a better product, to allow for a sustainable system where people are not getting burnt out, where this whole thing doesn't fall and crash because it's just taking a toll on the health and the functioning of the industry. So, and the thing is, it's also the responsibility, I think, of the creators and the line producers and all, to demand that for the actors. The whole demand a certain kind of time and space, time and space and break that is required to deliver something, of course within restrictions, within limitations, but in a human way, in a creatively and otherwise deliverable way.
Yeah, but is it practical though? I mean, how are they actually doing it? How is it even possible? Because time is money, isn't it? So how are they doing it? How are you doing it? How are your scenarios working?
I mean, in all of them, the number of hours we end up working is insane. The
Yeah,
schedules we have are crazy. The number of scenes you're doing a day, you're jumping from one emotion to the other. There is no
yeah,
time space to really even um, dwell in something and kind of give it, especially if it's a tough scene in terms of emotions or
yeah,
playing out. So there are small little things where you get compromised, and it's a sad thing because the judgments are more and more because people are more educated and more when educated I mean like they've been watching more things and they have more to compare with, so
yeah,
their judgments are stronger and valid,
yeah,
but what they don't realize are the circumstances under which some of the stuff is
yeah.
done, where there's hardly any time, where there isn't, where the resources are very limited. And so
Mm,
those are things I wish that as a business model that shifts and that changes, and that there is a way
mm,
to do it where um, it will still be tight because of the
yeah.
nature of which it is, but it doesn't have to be so tight.
Yeah. No, I have to say the pandemic has really put us all into a tailspin and everything seems to be going into express. So, what I want to, so how has the scenario that the COVID and, how has it affected you as a person and your performance mostly? Has it had an impact on the way that you deliver, the way you develop your characters?
I think I've learned to not, I mean, I was never somebody who over prepared for a character. In any case, I am much more spontaneous and instinctive, and
Mm,
I come with a lot of focus when I come on set, and that's just who I am. Whenever, for most things in life, when I'm there, I try to be all there. But I think it's made me realize what being there really is, and all
yeah,
the anxiety and stress that might follow. I mean, that might precede a shoot has gone away now,
yeah,
because there's just a knowingness that whatever needs to happen will happen. All I need to
yeah,
be is present in that moment.
yes,
And of course, there are things where, let's say, I mean, I'm just giving a hypothetical example, but if there is a monologue that I need to learn up, or if it's in a language that I'm not comfortable, whatever I need to prepare as an actor before that, of course, that's my responsibility. But
yeah,
beyond stressing about how a scene will play out and what will happen and will I be able, all that I think has gone away. And I think there is a kind of living from one moment to another that this period of
yeah,
uncertainty has taught. And I think generally actors get learn to be a lot more patient, because our lives are
yeah,
generally like, you don't know when
yeah,
your next is, and you don't know what's going to happen. And even now, with you have a job and then suddenly it's all come to a standstill, and so that
yeah,
there is an uncertainty in our and we're dependent on someone else. But this situation, I think, has just made me a lot more at peace with myself, and therefore at peace
yeah.
with what I do, and whatever little stress and anxiety that I think I generally have before any kind of new project or new thing, that's kind of worn away, and there's a kind of trust in things playing out the way they need to.
Yeah. Oh, no, brilliant. Well, you know what? You've had a lot of people asking you questions, and somebody is talking about the pen that I'm holding. So, okay, you're right. I think this guy actually works in this company. I think that's why Hemant is actually mentioning it. But lots of people that have said, hello, and they're just loving your work, which is fantastic. Is there anyone that before we go on, do you want to say hello to? I mean, I think Rahul, good to know that you're in. So lots of people who
I
ask
mean, hello
questions.
to everyone. I don't know who all are here, but hello. And
There were
like I
lots
said,
of people.
I'm new to this stuff, so I'm not always.
Lucky Sharma,
Um,
official, is saying
I'm
hello.
not
Mahi,
always looking.
good to know that you were in. Totally out now. Good to know that you're in. So we'll be chatting as well at some point during the
Oh,
during the
someone said,
month.
let us say hi to my dog. Oh, she's gone to sleep
Yeah.
now.
By the
She
way,
was,
I did
she was
see her. I did
Yeah,
see
she's
her when
loitering around.
she's a beautiful animal. And I wanted to say something. I said, I'm not gonna disturb her because she might just start barking or something. So I'm not going to. But anyway, listen, are you where you want to be, Shahana, in the industry? Are you where you should be or where you want to be?
I don't think I have any ideas like that about where I want to be. That's what I mean. I'm not ambitious in that way. I
Mm,
think I know for me, life is a journey, and I'm curious to know how it'll play out. So,
yeah.
wherever I am is always better than what I could have imagined. And therefore, I'm curious to always see where I will be. So, there is no specific idea. Yes, the only thing that I manifest or I do affirmations about is that I want to do uh, collaborations with more uh, different kinds of people, be more involved in that kind of collaborative process, be
Mm.
working, be shouldering more responsibility, be more sure of the kind of what I contribute and learn more also in the process. So it's just maybe about being able to uh,
Come what
it's
may?
of collaborations, yeah.
Yeah.
Do more work that is maybe seen across the world. Those are the kind of
Yeah.
things that I would want. But there's nothing specific um, in terms of an ambition. I think I'm
Mm.
always happy to do what I'm doing, and
Yeah.
I would, I've been lucky to to still be offered work that I'm excited about, that I
Yeah.
enjoy doing, and yeah. So I'm curious to see
How this
how the
pans
rest of
out.
it plays out. Yeah.
So you're more excited than we are. You'll be more surprised than
Yeah,
we are.
always. I'm very excited about life, always, for no reason.
Yeah, so this is it, isn't it? So, the usual question is, they'll say, Shahana, what is your advice to aspiring actors? But I'm going to flip it over actually. From our conversation, what I've understood, from the way that you've been supported as well, what kind of advice would you give to parents who have children who aspire to become actors? So, because I think it's a lot about support as well. What advice would you give to them? Because there's still a lot of non-believers, still a lot of them thinking, "अरे बेटा बेटी कहाँ क्या जाओगे कहाँ होगा job ले लो office में." So, what kind of advice would you give to parents? Do you think?
See, it's tricky because it's, again, if I use my example, uh, my parents were, of course, supportive about the fact that I wanted to act, but it's not like they weren't worried. And had my life played out differently, where I was struggling in the beginning, and it
Hmm.
wasn't this like, oh, before I knew it, I was already acting. So, because their concern, most parents, their concerns are about security and all of that.
Yeah,
The advice I would give is let your focus, and not just about people whose kids want to act, any parent or any relationship, let the people that you love find what they love,
hmm.
because getting stuck in security is not sustainable, because it's not something that can last. But being passionate about something is something that grows, that builds,
Yeah,
and you may lose that, but it will be replaced by something else. But security comes out of fear. Passion
yeah,
comes out of love. It's an open feeling. And that's the only way you can be sure or secure of the fact that your child or your loved one will be fine. If they
hmm.
find what they love. People go around getting depressed, they shut themselves off from things. People get depressed or low even in the highs of their being secure, getting or having all
Hmm.
the money, having the comforts, having a great family. It's because they've not found what they're passionate about.
Right.
And I'm reading this book by Krishnamurti, which talks about this. The problem with the education system and the way the society has been built
Hmm.
is that being pushed to follow certain values and ideas that are not sustainable, that are
Yeah,
not what our soul's mission is, to be living this life.
yeah.
So one has to find joy. One has to find what brings joy to your life, and
Hmm.
not what brings security.
Right. So I dare not ask you what you're thinking about the future. I'm not even going to go there because we're living in the moment and we're living in the present. So
Absolutely.
I'm not
Yeah.
going to ask you. But what I will ask you, what have we got to look forward to that is coming out? that we should be waiting for? Are you allowed to tell us? Stuff on the
Yeah, so
conveyor belt.
there's another show for Amazon called Hush
Hmm.
Hush.
Okay.
Uh, should be, well, we haven't finished shooting it yet, so that show will probably come out sometime next year.
Okay.
And then there is a film I'm doing with Kanu Bail with Manoj Bajpayee, which is called Dispatch.
Hmm.
So that also the filming has been stalled because of the current
Yeah.
circumstances. Once that picks up again, maybe end of this year, early next year, that should be out. And
Okay.
there are two short films that I've done, which I don't know when and where they'll come out, but there's a total of three, one more recently and two in the last 1.5 years, 2 years. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's it for
So
now, and
this is
then we'll
Oh,
see.
lovely. Well, this is it. So I'm going to be on the edge of my seat, until next year, waiting for all this new stuff to come out. So fantastic stuff. Shahana, thank you so much for coming on. It's been
Not
an
at all.
absolute
Thank
pleasure.
you.
It's been a breath of fresh air, let me tell you. It really, really
Thank you,
has.
Annie.
It's almost like taking a cold shower and suddenly being invigorated. So this is how
Ah,
I see it.
lovely.
No, and thank you to all of you. I mean, Malaysia and
Yes,
Belgium, they've
thank
been
you.
coming in and out. Lovely
Thank you
stuff.
everyone for coming. Thank you for all the love, and yeah,
God,
this is so
lots
lovely
of people have left
opportunity.
messages for you, and the messages were just going up. And I felt really bad thinking I haven't mentioned them. But you know what? It's great to know that they're in. And also, thank you for everyone for taking part. If you want to see this lovely lady, you can watch the IGTV in full, or if YouTube is your thing, then come onto my YouTube channel, Annie D in Conversation. And if you're more, if you're, you like the internet and you like kind of surfing, come onto my website, www.annied.in, and you will see her all over again. And you can read a few articles while you're there. So, Shahana, thank you so much,
Thank
for
you
coming
so
on
much,
once again.
Annie. Thank you.
Absolute pleasure, and can't wait to see what comes out. And I'm going to take a bit of your advice. I'm going to live for the moment, and I'm going to
Absolutely.
relax and not get stressed as well. So,
That's
and Lucky Sharma is also quite desperate to, I think, ask you a question before we leave. I don't know, Lucky, what were you
sure.
saying? Oh, they loved you in Super. There you go. So just people just expressing their love and admiration.
Oh,
This could be
thank you.
endless.
Yes, for Bombay Begums as well. Yes, thank you. Thank you so much.
All right then, Shahana, I'll let you go, and I will see you soon and on another platform. So
Yes, thank you,
take
Annie.
care.
Take
Okay, bye
care.
now. Bye.
Bye.